So Rick and Michael, you run a podcast called Scienceish.
Scienceish.
Sorry.
No, I think it's a fair sort of criticism, really.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever told anyone the name of the podcast and they've got it right first time.
No.
I'm just going to go science. What? Sorry, right, Scienceish.
We don't know how to pronounce the brackets. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, generally speaking, brackets are silent, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's very rare that I pronounce brackets, but it is.
Science brackets, ish bracket.
brackets,
Yeah.
closed brackets, open brackets, yeah.
Or a bit
We tend to
more
just
scientific.
leave them.
Science parentheses.
Don't make me laugh, it jiggles the camera.
Sorry.
It's alright.
Yes. But yes, it's science. It's Scienceish, which I think we thought was a good name.
Yeah, you came up with that.
Yeah.
I remember the moment.
Yeah.
Thinking, okay, this
My
might not be
one
completely useless.
eureka moment.
Yeah.
A name that people could never remember.
Yeah.
Did Rick
Slash
go,
get
should we
right.
call it Scienceish? And you thought, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel
yeah.
like I
And
was
that was
there.
the last time I thought that about something that you said, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like it was going to be downhill from there. And it has been. And here we are.
So, let's pretend I've never listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So, we, in theory, we take any work of fiction, so it could be a film or TV show or book or play. In practice, it's always a film.
Never a play.
It's never been a play
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like the theatre. Do you? I don't even know if you
I'm
like
sort of. I think I like the theatre, and then I go, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
It's, I don't fit in the seats.
Oh, is that what it
It's
is?
really-
It's not
yeah,
intellectually.
really-
It's
Yeah.
just you don't fit in the seat.
Yeah.
I think I struggle with it intellectually as
Okay.
well, but
Mm.
I really struggle with it physically, and I hate it when the interval comes because
You've
know
never got the
there's
flavour of
more.
ice cream that you want.
It's not that. It's just you think this isn't even the end. This is literally not the end. I've got to come back.
We're probably only halfway through. in fact.
Yeah. Whereas with films, you no longer have. Of course, you used to have an interval, didn't you? But not anymore.
Yeah.
So we largely do films, sometimes books, and then we ask 3 kind of big science questions that the film throws up.
Yeah.
Sometimes that the film quite obliquely throws up, but so give an example.
So in Jurassic Park, we ask, could we bring just dinosaurs back? You know,
Mhm.
which is a kind of obvious question.
Yeah.
But we also ask a question about what are the ethics of doing something like that.
Mhm.
So you know, and then you get into the whole thing about de-extinction and species and what we should be doing, and whether it sort of affects our conservation sort of mindset if we can actually just bring stuff back from the dead,
Which it would, by the way.
which it would, I can see.
Yes. And
I should introduce Beth and Molly in the background there.
hello,
Hey,
Beth.
Beth's
Molly.
trying to hide.
I think
Hello.
that Molly was really disappointed that we're not going to bring dinosaurs back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the
it
point
was.
at which she
I'm
screamed.
sorry,
Yeah.
Molly.
In fact,
It's okay.
It just doesn't look feasible.
No, but you're
What
not.
about a woolly mammoth, Molly?
Yeah, will you settle for a woolly mammoth? Because we can do
We
that.
can do that, and
We're
some
going to.
Korean gentlemen are doing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
in fact, if one of you were to hold Molly, Beth can do you an impression of a dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
to sort of
That
link
is
in.
something you can't turn down.
Very
No.
nice.
There you go.
Come
So Beth,
here,
this
then.
is Rick, who I used to be at university with in my year
Oh.
at Cambridge.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah,
Now then.
let me just,
Yeah.
adjust my.
Well, you
It's all on,
It's gonna be on camera.
it's all on
get,
camera.
get
Okay.
ready for the.
Ready?
Yeah,
Yes.
here we go.
Ready?
Yeah, Molly, you ready? There should be loads more of that on our podcast because I like that.
That's amazing.
Bringing films to life.
How did
Wow.
you
You know.
discover your talent in that area?
I don't know, and I'm not even sure if it is accurate to the. Was it Velociraptor?
I don't think
No,
it
it's
needs
just-
to be.
it's
I
just-
think,
it's just a
yeah,
thing.
It's an interpretation, certainly. but-
Yeah.
I got stopped on the street by little boys yesterday saying, "Can you do that impression?" Because I did it at Wigtown's Got Talent.
Yeah. Did you win?
No,
What?
What-
I know.
What
I
position
know.
did you come, Beth?
Absolute
Joint
sham.
last.
Joint last.
Joint. What is
Yeah,
with
and
her?
it wasn't
Wow.
just that impression.
This town's not
2
worth
little
your
kids
time.
won it. Very cute little kids.
Who was joint last with you?
Jessica Fox and Marjorie.
Who did
They did a choreographed light.
homage
Yes,
to the Cassini?
I think
satellite
so.
probe.
Oh, really?
Nobody was
Yeah.
quite sure.
So
what
science
it was.
came last, basically.
Science
is
came
what you're
last.
saying. Science came last at Wigtown, Scotland.
Yeah.
We've actually
good
found
to know.
through doing our podcast that science is quite unpopular. People don't like it.
No,
Oh.
but you like it, don't you, Molly?
Yeah.
I think she'll be drawn into, especially if all these people keep visiting and
Yeah,
telling her things.
yeah.
Molly,
Yeah.
do you have a question for the
Yeah,
Scienceish crew?
Anything you'd like to ask, Molly?
No.
Are
Could
wondering
you-
about whether we're living in a simulation? I wonder that sometimes, Molly.
Oh, you might be. You
So-
might grow up
Yeah,
and
no.
find that you're just a brain in a vat.
Whoa.
Say that to
Was that the Matrix? Was that the
Yeah,
Matrix
that's the
show?
Matrix.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to say.
Hey, ask me a serious science question, and I'll tell you what film that
Oh,
question
okay,
came
okay.
from.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, why do we need the quantum data?
I have no idea what film
Oh,
that's
that's
from.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One to me. Go on, Rick.
Rick? Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine. I think that was too hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
You're
think that was a
probably
bit,
right. You're
bit
probably
mean.
right.
Lower the
Should we be scared of viruses?
There's
Z,
a few
Z,
answers
Z,
Yeah, you can
World
have
War
that.
Z.
Yeah, World War Z or
Contagion,
Or
or
Contagion.
Yeah, or
28
28
days.
days.
28
yeah.
days later is the one we did.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think that's a fairer. I
Yeah.
just thought you were.
Should
Yeah.
we colonise
Didn't really
Mars?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
good.
quite easy.
That's good. That is The Martian.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Oh, you let me
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ever
and
since you said she might just be a brain in a vat, she looked very peeved.
and so you're here today at the Wigtown Book Festival, and
Yes.
what film are you using as your springboard?
We are using Gattaca as
Gattaca.
our springboard. which is
1997 classic.
1997. One of my favourite films. Didn't do very well at the box office.
Mhm.
Isn't weirdly that well known. Was quite badly received
Yeah.
by the scientific community when it came out because they thought that it was painted in quite a bad light, which it was.
Yeah, it was, to be fair. And then, sort of fast forward, what was it, 2011, a group of NASA scientists came out and said they thought that was the most accurate and plausible scientific-based film. And
Yeah.
prescient, yeah. Because it deals with all these issues of genetic engineering that we are now starting to face.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to preempt your podcast later. In fact, this will come out afterwards. So
Okay,
it's
so
there's
that's
no
right.
danger.
there's
of
no
preempting.
day.
No
No.
spoilers.
In
We'll
fact,
post-empt it.
Beth, are you off to?
No,
Just waving.
Just
Just waving.
Just waving.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I
So
mean, I think Molly's pretty happy. I'm pretty happy.
Good.
do you want to look at one of those questions right now, and very briefly?
Yeah, very briefly.
Sure.
What are the three questions we ask?
Um,
Can we make the perfect human is one of them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And should we? Of
Are
course.
we more than our genes?
Yeah.
I can't remember the third one. We need to brush up on this before tonight, don't we?
Yeah.
It's the third one. Oh, can you remember the third one, Molly?
Any
Yeah, you
ideas?
just grip onto the old finger. Oh, great stretch.
Oh.
That's a fart
That's-
posture. Sorry, guys.
Don't mind it. You've got to have a posture. You really have. You should see Michael's. It's grotesque.
I think the question about should we make the perfect human being is quite interesting.
Well, isn't it? Because then you have to define what you think of as perfect.
And then if
And-
everybody's perfect,
yeah.
surely that is the most
I think
dull
that-
world you can possibly
Yeah,
imagine.
So I think the big issue is that it will create a system where rich, powerful people are able to create the perfect progeny,
Mhm.
and you exacerbate inequality, and you end up essentially with a world like
We have
depicted
now.
in Gattaca,
Yeah.
which is two castes,
Mhm.
one kind of elite and one
The
underclass.
invalids, as they're known.
Invalids,
Because
yeah.
they just don't have the genetic makeup for good health. And they're seen as a drain on the system. So they're just used as cleaners and do the menial jobs.
It's quite like Brave New World, just with
It's
fewer
very like
castes.
that. The third question, which I've just remembered, is,
Oh, cool.
do our genes predict our destiny?
Yes.
And actually, that's a really interesting thing because we're starting to get to the point where insurance companies are looking at genetics to say, okay, he's got these genetics. What can we say about his, what should his insurance premium be? So
I mean,
that's a difficult road to go down. As well.
Especially you're talking to Molly there, who's like, she's just woken up with a set of genes,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you're telling her there that maybe this is what she's got to play with.
Yeah, and in Gattaca,
Yeah.
they go so far as to predict your date of death.
Yeah, so they do which Molly would have had, a little heel prick blood test. And obviously there's a certain number of things that we can determine. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm just remembering that hill prick test and not enjoying it.
Yeah. That was a bad man.
And we screen for a variety of diseases, but in Gattaca the idea is you very rapidly do a DNA screening, and they predict, that so Ethan Hawke's character is going to live till he's 30.2. And they predict, effectively it's the number of beats that your heart is going to make, isn't it, that they say predict. But at the...
It's not something you want to live with, is it?
No.
Knowing when
also,
you're
in 1997, this is when the Human Genome Project, mapping project, was in full swing, and was just published that year, or was it the year after?
It was that year.
And everyone was incredibly excited, and geneticists were making quite big claims along the lines of, your fate is in your genes. This is the first draft of the book of life.
We'll
and it's very kind of genetic determinism, and the film skewers that totally.
Its famous tagline is "There's no gene for the human spirit," which is really nice. And that is kind of what we bring out, I guess, is that when you start to dig into the genetics and what they've been able to do as against what they promised to do, and it's just always one of those things that science never quite can do everything that it might want to be able to do, and that's sometimes not a bad thing.
No, but it's also good for people to, have a little, it's a good thumb to suck, actually.
Is it the clean one?
Oh, no, it's the wrong one, Molly. Oh, no. Oh, Molly.
Too late.
That's alright.
You're getting great immunisation stuff right
We have the
now.
hygiene hypothesis.
Yeah.
Actually,
This is good.
This will do her good.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things the immediate things that comes to my mind is like, if you think of the strength of a genome of a species, that it has to be a diverse genome, and if you've got people designing perfect ones, you're going to narrow down that genome, and things that we might see as a problem today. Well, when an asteroid hits and there's hardly any food, then it's something that might be considered a disease now might actually help someone survive in the future.
Absolutely,
and
diversity could be a real problem, and we might just be eliminating parts of the genome that we don't quite understand. That's the other thing. There's so much junk. In inverted commas, I can't do it in inverted commas because thank you. Junk DNA. We're 98% junk DNA. You could be eliminating some stuff there. It's always worth bearing in mind that 200 years ago, if you'd spoken to scientists, they would have said, "I think we're pretty.
We know
we're
everything
on top
now.
of everything actually."
And then came Einstein.
And then 200 years later, you kind of look back at the stuff that they thought was true and you kind of laugh. There's every possibility that in 200 years or less we'll be doing the same thing.
Good old scientific revolutions.
There's not really any reason to expect that we're any closer to knowing the truth of that stuff.
Which is funny because that's not a popular thing to say amongst scientists.
No.
Although they all sort of admit it in the abstract, none of them admit that. Well, it's all like, well, I know my field. Obviously, other people don't know.
Exactly. It's true of everyone else.
Yeah.
As it happens, I've absolutely nailed my bit. So how have you ended up here?
We ended up here because so after I left university, I spent about 10 years travelling around East Africa doing wildlife and environmental filming work basically out there, but then I was also in bands in London, so I'd sort of split my time, and then then eventually stopped doing that and concentrating on music. And so our band's called the Bookshop Bands, so it's all songs inspired by books, and we tour around bookshops and libraries and literary festivals and wherever else. And we actually had a gig cancelled in Carlisle, and so I looked on a map and I kind of saw there was a big clump of bookshops up in Wigtown. So I sent a message to Adrian, the festival director, and he said, come and play in the bookshop. And so we did, and we spent a couple of days here and got absolutely wasted, and it was really, really fun. We sort of joked, you come and live here, but obviously that's ridiculous. And then we came back a couple of times for the festival, like doing concerts and running the open bookshop up there, which is like a bookshop that anyone can run.
Yeah.
And we sort of turned it into a studio and did some recording. And then we were up last year, and Beth had just found out she was pregnant, and we'd moved out of our house because we were touring so much, and we'd just come back to this damp house once every month, and it just wasn't
Where
worth.
was that?
Then just outside Bristol.
Oh, okay.
And so then we were homeless, but thinking maybe we should have somewhere to live once the baby's born. And then we were up here, and the guy who owned this place said, we're kind of putting feelers out, like we need to find somewhere to live. And he was like, "Oh, come and look at this place." So he came and looked at it and was like, "Yeah, this is great."
Wow.
And then that was it. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a massive move, but it's been really easy.
Has it?
Yeah, it's been great.
It's
Yeah.
very cool up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.